What's up, everybody? Sickphony Coltano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. But seriously, welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron. I'm still a little under the weather, so you're gonna have to forgive me for sounding like I'm dying and I can't breathe, because honestly I can't. But here we are checking out the new album, Post-Human NeX GEn, by the metalcore band Bring Me the Horizon. I don't know if you could really classify these guys as metalcore anymore. They kind of just do whatever they want. This is the second installment in the Post-Human series after the fantastic Post-Human survival horror from 2020, which is really the only Bring Me the Horizon album I've liked since Sepulturnal, which is now 11 years old. That's the Spirit from 2015. Still gets some love from fans, but I think Ammo is considered to be the worst album that they've released. Most people jumped ship when they drastically changed their sound from their deathcore debut album, Count Your Blessings, to their more mainstream metalcore sophomore record, Suicide Seasons. I gotta admit, I was one of those people, but also, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Their deathcore sound from Counting Your Blessings wasn't really all that great. It wasn't the best thing that we've ever heard. The production was a little rough around the edges. A lot of people sound like it was the best thing they've ever heard. My issue with it was it sounded like they were going in one direction and they completely changed gears. And I was really hoping for a really solid deathcore band out of these guys once they kind of grew into it. But, I mean, it changed and we got something else. I gotta admit that I didn't really care for any of these other albums, honestly, until the Post-Human series started. Survival horror felt like it was gonna be as good as it gets for this band based on video games within the horror and fantasy genre. They implemented these themes flawlessly with some great features, and it got a lot of people really excited when they announced that they were gonna be dropping a part 2 for this series, and they started releasing some new singles. The first one being Die For You, which honestly, it wasn't very promising, mostly because me personally, I don't really care for singles all that much. I like to hear songs within the whole album. So for the singles, I might sound like I'm coming off a little harsh because I probably am. It's more pop punk than anything else. The lyrics to me felt pretty basic, and the music, while being very colorful, it wasn't really anything too inspiring. To me, the only redeeming quality was Ollie's vocals, which sounded fantastic, as you would basically expect. And they continue these pop punk vibes with the follow-up single, Strangers, which is about performing live in front of a bunch of strangers, and all these people are able to connect kind of on another level, but at the same time on the same level, even though they're all going through different things in their life. It's got a really decent message that I enjoyed. The drums, I think, carry most of the weight in this song, but there isn't really much to write home about it otherwise, just because it's so overproduced. It just kind of turns into a big wall of sound, but I mean, it still sounds pretty good. The third single they released, Lost, is said to describe how this album is going to sound, which in hindsight doesn't really make too much sense, because I feel like this album is very diverse and no single song really describes how this album sounds. It has a fun rhythm and motif. It does sound kind of like a dated pop punk song, which I did enjoy, almost with like a touch of My Chemical Romance's emo side. The electronic breakdown was pretty sick, and they followed this up with a very confusingly aggressive single, Amen, which, like I said, it doesn't really follow up the song that describes this album. It features Lil Uzi Vert and Daryl from Glassjaw. It's very intense, almost schizophrenic, which I think they pulled off very well. The music is all over the place. You never really know what's going to come next between the screams, the rapping trap sections, and the synthesized breakdowns. This one is quite literally a roller coaster, and to throw you off even further into left field, they dropped Darkside, which is just a typical metalcore jam. It touches on depression and insomnia, so it has a little bit more of a dark side to it. To me, the lyrics felt a little superficial, not really that deep, and they were just catchy for the sake of being catchy, especially when you get to the chorus. And I don't know, this is my least favorite song even after listening to the entire album. But even then, in its entirety, I don't really feel like it's that bad. It still fits within the album itself. Just as a single, I don't know, it felt like it was just, it's very much a single. The last single that they gave us was Kool-Aid, which to me is the most Bring Me the Horizon-esque in terms of the production and the metalcore, and I actually like the hook and the chorus and the distorted vocals in verse 2. I just wish that they let the music shine. I feel like they held it back just a little bit too much and didn't have too many characteristics, and I feel like it would have done a lot better if there was more musical aspects of this sticking out. I mean, the synth stuff that they did and the guitar solo helped out a lot, but that was just a tiny little taste of what they give us. And now we get to the meat of the album where all the good stuff is. The opening track, Dayseek, is basically just an intro to the song YOUtopia, which is an absolute beaut. The atmosphere in the verses is full of nostalgia, and it's almost dreamlike. The gentle pre-chorus, which is full of nature sounds, birds and stuff like that, makes for a great transition into the chorus, which is full of emotion and just great imagery. I honestly, after the singles, I didn't expect anything like this to hit nearly as hard. Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood continues this post-synth pop punk wave kind of sound with shockingly good imagery in the chorus, and the drums absolutely go off, really shining through. I love the fast pace of this song. They didn't like limp into it. They keep that momentum going, and it doesn't really back off. The breakdown is super creative, and it just has so much energy, and it goes straight into the heavy, very Deftones-esque song liMOusIne, featuring Aurora. Deftones has a very special place in my heart, so of course I'm an absolute sucker for this song. The verses are very vulnerable, touching on drug abuse, and that chorus is just, it does literally everything right. Like I said, it's Deftones-esque, but it doesn't sound like they're copying. I mean, they just, that atmosphere, just the overall feel of it, the heavy emotion and just the slow tempo it has, it's just so fantastic. Aurora shows up in verse 2, and she also has part of like the duet in the final chorus and the outro, which is an absolute masterpiece. Honestly, this is one of my favorite Bring Me the Horizon songs that I've ever heard. And then we have a little bit more of an obscure song, A Bullet with My Name On, featuring Spencer from Under Oath. This song is very electronic-y, and it feels kind of more like a party mix more than anything else. And it does have some very controversial kind of lyrics to it, which, I mean, it's Bring Me the Horizon. And it's very anti-Christian or religion, which, like I said, is Bring Me the Horizon. They're not really religious whatsoever, but a lot of religious people, they didn't really like it that much. And I guess they're turning their back on this band, which, I mean, as a Christian, I mean, I don't really care, to be honest. It is what it is. The drums stand out so much to me again, but the vocals weren't really quite there from Ollie until you get to verse 2 where Spencer comes in and he absolutely freaking kills it. And to me, it feels like Ollie was doing that on purpose. He backed it down just a little bit to make Spencer's vocals really punch through. Oh, and Aaron Gillespie is also featured on this song as well. He is in the bridge, and he sounds just as beautiful as ever with his clean vocals. It's super chaotic. It reminds me of something that could be found on Under Oath's album, Only Chasing Safety, I believe is the name of it, because of just how it's just all over the place. It's kind of progressive. It feels like they took a bunch of like ideas, pieces of songs, and found a way to connect them and just make it sound really good. Spiritual has like this weird synthy interlude thing, and it connects the first half of this album and the back half of this album. But to me, it works really well. Normally, stuff like this feels pointless. Like let's just get to the next song. But this has a really good connecting feeling to it. And it starts off the back half of this album going into the next song, NA, which I'm assuming stands for Narcotics Anonymous, which kind of reminds me of Cage the Elephant track, at least in the opening. And then you get to verse 2, which is super heavy. The songwriting in this is so freaking brilliant, setting the scene for Ollie being in a Narcotics Anonymous setting. And he's introducing himself. The group of people say, "Hi, Ollie." It's just so freaking good. The imagery in it is fantastic. And I loved how vulnerable this song is. Ollie really opens up if you really listen to what these lyrics are saying. And it's more or less also what's going on inside of his head. He doesn't pull any punches. He doesn't hold back at all. Basically pointing out his shortcomings and his struggles. It is so brilliant. And then we have the song R.I.P., which is connected to A Bullet with My Name On. It really has the same kind of themes, and it even pulls some of the lyrics at the same time. The music, mainly the melodies, to me really make this song, but it doesn't really bring too many new elements. So I enjoyed it. It's a solid jam, but it doesn't stand out too much amongst the other songs. And then we have the song Pussy, PUSS-E, which stands for Penal Upregulation Synthetic Substance Enhanced. It's a drug that is created by the Church of Genexus to get people to obey and kind of brainwash them. I don't know. I enjoyed this song. It's just it's so out there. It feels like something that the Prodigy would write. It's just super crazy. It's very fast, and it feels like a bad acid trip, like you took a pill and now your brain is kind of being warped. And then we have the closing track, Dig It, which is the longest song on this album, over 7 minutes. It really sums up the themes of this album with struggles of addiction and mental health and facing judgment from others, and also just coming to realizations that you have these problems in general. The chorus also shows the struggles of depression. It's very relatable. It is a little repetitive, and the music isn't really that extravagant, but I feel like this is it's definitely more focused on just closing the story out. And I think it does a good job on that. It's not like over progressive either. It's not very much in your face. So it does a good job at also kind of bringing the energy down after you've just been up for this whole time. Honestly, I dig it. I gotta admit, the first time I heard these singles, they were a little rough. I didn't really care for them, but normally I don't really like singles. Within the album, I feel like it all comes together. I am an absolute Bring Me the Horizon hater, but I love their last record, and honestly, I like this more. This is so good. You can keep hating it if you want, because they're not deathcore anymore. They haven't been for over 20 years now. But I mean, this, like I said, it's like post synthwave pop punk. It's just top tier. There's multiple songs on here that are now my favorite Bring Me the Horizon songs. The songs that I didn't like are still above average in terms of just other bands and music within this genre. The production can be a bit much on some songs, but it still works. It fits the whole theme. It isn't nearly as bad as it's been in the past, I feel like. I really feel very silly for liking this album, because every time Bring Me the Horizon comes out with something, everybody, rolls their eyes and starts talking about how it's going to suck and it's going to be mainstream and blah, 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 blah. But with all that said, I got to give Posthuman NeX GEn by Bring Me the Horizon a 8.9 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Is this Bring Me the Horizon's best stuff they've ever done? Or is it just another silly release that they have that doesn't really stand out that much? Honestly, I feel like most people are going to be on board with this album, especially if you really truly give it a chance and listen to it, because there's so much goodness here. It blew me away. I can't believe I'm saying it, because like I said, I'm a hater, but I love this album so much. So yeah, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of NeX GEn. Let me know what you would rate it, what your favorite song is. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you want to help support me and my channel even further, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. That way you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And also, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk about music. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.